Welcome to the 2025 Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dawser. That's Jeff Goodman you see over there. We're going to have all of the coaches from the Missouri Valley men's basketball teams here coming up with us over the course of the afternoon. But we're going to start things off here with Missouri Valley Commissioner Jeff Jackson. Jeff, first and foremost, man, it's great to see you. How you doing? It's good to have you on.
Can't complain. It's like anything, the start of a new year, a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. And fortunately, having the opportunity to work with a conference like the Missouri Valley means we've got a lot of good teams. So it's off to a good start.
Well, a lot of commissioners are not aging as well as you are, Jeff. I will say that right now. But you look good. You look energized.
I appreciate you saying that. Hey, I love embellishment. I love it.
No, listen. Hey, Rob knows. You've known me a long time. I'm not gonna lie. You look good.
Yeah.
The life of a college commissioner is not an easy one these days. We talked with you a little bit last year about it, but how have things changed, even over the last 6 months to a year, as opposed to when you came into this job?
It's interesting. We had a meeting with our ADs a couple of weeks ago, and I have a deputy commissioner. Her name's Jill Redmond, and I walked into Jill's office and I said, am I wrong? And calming down isn't the right word or the right group of words, but it's probably more an understanding of where we're at and just as individual institutions and as a conference office, trying to figure out the best way to manage it. We now have a better understanding of what NIL is. We have a better understanding of the impact of the House settlement. We have a better understanding of the transfer portal and how we need to react to it. We have a better understanding of how we need to engage our fan bases and understanding the new environment. I think all those things are moving in a direction that everybody's embracing. So it's a little different over the last couple months, where I think, in all candor, for that 10 to 12 month period prior to that, you feel like you're running around with your hair on fire. And again, I don't have any hair, so that's probably not an apt analogy. But, you just kind of feel, that you're always playing catch up. And maybe over the last couple months are the first few times where we started to feel like we can be somewhat proactive in some of our thoughts and how we look at some things. So it's getting better. Look, this environment was always coming. I think it's important that the constituencies I represent, whether we're talking about our presidents and chancellors or we're talking about our ADs or our coaches, they've embraced it. Our conference wants to set the pace. We want to be very good at what we do with the investment that we make. And so I think we're being pretty creative and pretty, sagacious about how we go about that process.
Well, I don't know if the people listening can tell by the commissioner using words like sagacious, but you are a Cornell grad. So it's obvious that education was something very important for you growing up. While we're dealing with the transfer portal now, how do you, as a commissioner, as someone that has been a Division I college basketball coach for a huge portion of your professional career, how do you help these guys ensure that, yes, we want to make sure that these student athletes get extra opportunities, that they can transfer, that they can do these other things that they should be allowed to do, while also making sure that you prioritize? At the end of the day, most of these student athletes are not going to end up being professional athletes. They got to find a way to be able to make sure that those degrees come. How do you focus on that, and how do you help your coaches navigate that?
Rob, I think the great thing for me is I don't necessarily have to do anything different than I was doing 2 or 3 years ago when I took this job, because we have great villages on our campuses, starting with our presidents and chancellors, our athletic directors, and our coaches. The alignment in terms of how we treat our student athletes, how we care for our student athletes, the North Star in terms of what I think you're alluding to, Rob, the importance of education. Those things haven't changed. And we understand that we may have a little bit more of transition when it comes to our rosters. But I don't think our schools in any way have lost sight of what the most important thing is, because you're right. You made a great point. I think even a better point is, in some ways, is that, we're going to have some young people who are going to make more money in 1 year playing college basketball than they may make in any 1 year the rest of their lives. Okay, so it's not just preparing people from an academic vantage point, but how do you also prepare them mentally and emotionally, so that when this, what I call it, this adventure is over, that they're in a position not only to graduate, but to work, perform, and be successful in their next stage of life. And I think that has not vacillated in any way in terms of how our presidents and chancellors, how our coaches, and how our athletic directors look at this new environment. I think we're exactly where we were 3 years ago, which that is our North Star, making sure that our student athletes not only have a great experience on campus, but are prepared for the next stage of life. And what we all know is a challenging environment out there. It's not easy.
It is not easy. There's so much to try to get your arms around right now, and things are evolving so quickly, right? I mean, obviously you've got rev share coming out and starting up, and this past year was kind of crazy because it was a free for all before rev share went in, so everybody's trying to pay as much as they could out before July hit, and I don't know. I just listen. I can't wait till games start, Jeff. I can't wait because the off season isn't nearly as much fun as it used to be. I don't know the names. You don't either. And we're getting older. So it's harder for us to remember the names as it is. And the rosters are changing so much. That's why when I look at like you and I and Ben Jacobson and what he's coming back, I feel like, man, he's got such an advantage now over everybody else, whether it's, in the league even, but nationally, especially a guy like that he's so about development. And now to be able to have that, I don't know. I love the fact that this is a team that I think is going to make a major jump nationally again this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. And if you've had the chance, and you probably have, to spend some time with Ben, you understand why. I mean, so grounded, so much in support of the student athlete experience, seasoned, understands all the things that surround and is necessary to have a successful program. So it's hard not to feel very confident about what I think they'll be able to accomplish this upcoming season. I think we have a few other teams that certainly are going to give them a run for their money. But, the most important thing is, and you spoke to it a little bit earlier, Jeff, is, college sports have always been about the name on the front of the jersey. And that may be even more prevalent now, as you said, with the transition in the rosters that we have. And so, I think our programs are looking at it in terms of, what can Illinois State do to be successful? What can Bradley do to be successful? What can UIC do to be successful? And understanding that, yeah, there may be some change, but that doesn't in any way minimize the things that we find important, the passion and the effort that we put forward, and the excitement that we can bring on our campuses when our programs are successful.
Tournament expansion. Everyone's talking about field of 72, field of 76. You can see right here, we have all of this stuff that says the field of 68 on it. At what point, Jeff, you think I have to start investing in something new? And is that something that you support? Do you want to see a larger?
Yeah, Rob, I hope as soon as possible. Okay, I'm not saying that the field of 76 sounds as sexy as the field of 68. I'll leave that, to those who are evaluating those type of things. But I would hope as soon as possible. I think there are so many quality teams, and obviously we're a conference that maybe over the last couple of years our programs have been in those conversations. But does anybody think that if Drake didn't win our tournament, that they didn't deserve a place in the field? And I'm not saying that they would not have been able to get into the first 68, but I certainly would go to bed at night feeling a lot more comfortable if there was 8 more slots for them to be selected in. And I think the same thing holds true of the previous season in regards to Indiana State. So, and I think those teams proved in the postseason, whether it was the run that Indiana State had in the NIT or the success that Drake had against Missouri in the NCAA tournament, that they deserve to be in the tournament. So, we probably have a field that's a little bit too narrow considering how many schools make legitimate investments in the sport of basketball. So I'm hopeful that at some point we're able to get to 76. And as far as I'm concerned, the quicker the better.
Jeff, what at Missouri Valley meetings, what was the biggest hot button topic that wasn't involving NIL? Was there something among the coaches?
We spent a lot of time. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we get multiple teams into the tournament. That was probably the thing that we spoke about the most with our coaches and our athletic directors in the spring. Whether that is how we schedule, not only when it comes to our non-conference competition, what we do in conference, how we're looking at our tournament, Arch Madness that we play in St. Louis. We brought Kevin Pogga in. We brought Joe Lenardi in to have conversations. And again, those guys are so good with the metrics, so that they're able to, impart some information that isn't subjective. Hey, stats are stats. Again, now you can do certain things with numbers, but a lot of things in numbers, they just are what they are. So we spent a lot of time just trying to figure out, how do we get better? How do we make sure what we've been able to accomplish? Because we've been really fortunate. We've been a conference that over the last couple of years, people have been talking about because we've had that one team. 2 years ago was Indiana State. Last year was Drake having exceptional seasons. We certainly would like to grow into an environment in which we've got 2 or 3 teams having that type of success at the same time. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how we can help our campuses create that type of synergy and at the same time be in a position to take advantage of it in terms of what we do in a non-conference space, what we do during the course of the season, and certainly what we do in Arch Madness in St. Louis when we hold our championship.
How are you? What's the plan in season, right? Like you mentioned Drake last season, you mentioned Indiana State the year before that. There's got to be a push internally when these seasons are happening to kind of get information out there about this is what they accomplished. This is what their resume looks like. This is what their metrics looks like. How do you guys, what's your plan of attack when you get to kind of January and February to promote the teams that you do have in your league that are in the mix for the at-large?
Well, remember the NCAA tournament, and again, I think obviously the media, we've been fortunate. The media has been really kind to us. Okay, they've kind of run with the Missouri Valley Conference story over the last couple of years because we had 2 special stories in terms of but maybe the most important thing is the interaction that we have with the NCAA selection committee during the course of the year, where we're constantly talking to our monitors, and those are the gentlemen or gentleladies who we have the opportunity to talk to in terms of, hey, what's going on with your conference? Who's good? Who's bad? Who's hurt? Who's on a run? Who's struggling? And we really try and drill down. Sometimes that drilling down is metric driven. Sometimes it's a little bit subjective. Sometimes it's comparison in regards to what is going on in other conferences. Sometimes it's predictive. So we spend a lot of time with what we like to think the important people in the room to make sure they understand, how good our product is, how hard it is to find a pathway to success in a conference like the Missouri Valley.
Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us, Jeff. Always. It's great to see you. We can't wait to get going.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to being in Sioux Falls for the opening tournament with 68. We've got Murray State and we've got Drake playing up there, and then in Winthrop, I guess, and I almost wanted to say Charlotte because so close to the area. But
close.
Yeah,
you're close.
We've got Bradley down there, and again, it's an opportunity for us as a conference to get off to a good start, to evaluate, to figure out what we need to do to get better. Those are 3 outstanding coaches. I have no questions they'll represent the Missouri Valley extremely well, and we're excited and looking forward to a great season.
Well, we're excited to have your teams involved. There's a reason why we targeted a number of Missouri Valley teams to bring them into the event and try to put on some of our platforms. So I'm gonna give you all the credit and say you're the one that convinced all these coaches to come join us. So I appreciate your influence. Appreciate you jumping on here, and here's to another great season of Missouri Valley basketball.